Argentina's new president is saving his country from economic collapse. After 2 years of recession, Argentina's GDP is now growing at 7.7% year over year, better than anyone expected. Hyperinflation is disappearing, and the government is recording its first fiscal surplus in decades. This is the first time in almost 100 years that Argentina returns to normal. It was once one of the wealthiest nations in the world, and now it's on track to thrive again. So, let's dive into what President Javier Milei is doing to grow his country's economy. Milei's policies stand out mainly because of what his predecessors did. You could argue Milei's policies aren't genius. It's just that Argentina's previous leaders did such a terrible job, and the new president only had to reverse their decisions. To understand Milei's reforms, we first need to look at Argentina's history and see what went wrong. Argentina gained independence from Spain in 1816 and adopted a constitution in 1853 inspired by the US, becoming a representative democracy. Initially, Argentina was the place to be. Its GDP per capita surpassed many European countries from the 1890s to the 1910s, even exceeding the US in some years. This prosperity was fueled by beef and wheat exports from the fertile Pampas region and massive European immigration, increasing the population from 500,000 in 1816 to 5 million by 1900. The country expanded territorially and attracted foreign investment. But the 20th century brought decline. Buenos Aires grew rapidly, but there were not enough jobs due to limited industry. The 1929 global depression cut Argentina's GDP by a fourth and exports dropped sharply, causing political chaos and a 1930 military coup that began the infamous decade of corruption and stagnant growth. Government favoritism toward landowners crushed earlier progress. After military and political turmoil post-1930s, Juan Perón rose to power in 1946. Though popular, his economic policies hurt Argentina long-term. He imposed import restrictions that isolated industries and led to inflationary financing by printing money to fund welfare and price controls. Between 1948 and 1950, the peso lost 70% of its value and inflation peaked at 50%. Perón was ousted in 1955 by a military coup. The following decades brought recurring military takeovers and failed economic policies. From the authoritarian regime of General Juan Carlos Onganía in 1966 to Perón's return and death mid-1970s, Argentina's economic and political instability deepened. Money printing to fight the 1973 oil crisis led to 600% annual inflation by 1976. The military dictatorship that followed enacted brutal repression during the Dirty War, while the economy suffered soaring foreign debt and unemployment hitting 18%, worst since the Great Depression. After the Falklands War defeat, democracy returned in 1983 with Raúl Alfonsín as president. He inherited massive debt and failed enterprises. Inflation soared to 5,000% by 1989, causing food shortages and riots. Carlos Menem's presidency, 1989-99, brought privatizations and trade liberalization, but pegging the peso to the dollar. Overvalued the currency, triggering recession, rising unemployment, and mounting foreign debt. By 2001, the country faced a bank run, government insurrection, and a record $132 billion default, leading to 5 presidents in 2 weeks. In 2002, Duhalde ditched the peso-dollar peg, causing a 65% loss in savings and 80% inflation, with unemployment at 21% and over half the population in poverty. Nestor Kirchner's 2003 presidency saw 8% annual GDP growth and poverty reduction but repeated past mistakes like nationalizations, price controls, and inflation above 20%. His wife Cristina Fernández worsened finances, defaulting again in 2014 and limiting US dollar access. Mauricio Macri, 2016-19, lifted currency controls but inflation surpassed 40%. Alberto Fernandez's 2019 administration faced over 50% inflation, 9.9% GDP contraction from COVID-19, ballooning debt at 103% of GDP, and a third default in 2 decades. Poverty rose to 40.1% by 2023. Understanding this history explains why many Argentines sought an outsider promising radical economic reform. Milei, born in 1970 in Buenos Aires, had a difficult childhood, was bullied, and faced family abuse, later cutting ties. He studied economics, specializing in growth, and embraced the Austrian school advocating minimal government, free markets, and abolition of the central bank. Known for aggressive rhetoric criticizing the left and state intervention, he gained fame as a TV economist with blunt claims that the state is a cancer and inflation is theft. Entering politics in 2021, Milei won 17% in legislative elections with La Libertad Avanza, supported mainly by young, lower and middle-class males. In 2023, amid worsening economic crisis, he challenged the establishment, gaining 20% support early and winning the presidency with 56% in a runoff against the left-wing candidate. Milei's radical libertarian agenda calls for drastically shrinking government, privatizing education, healthcare, and social welfare, abolishing the central bank, and dollarizing the economy. His chainsaw policy, cut 13 agencies, reduced the federal workforce by 10%, and aims to lower public spending from 40% of GDP to 25%, eliminating subsidies that fuel inflation. These austerity measures sparked short-term unemployment rises and protests as subsidies for the poor were cut, pushing poverty to 53% mid-2024 before falling to 37% by year-end due to inflation's slowing and private sector growth. Milei aims to reform taxes drastically, reducing types from dozens to 6, simplifying business and boosting economic freedom. Economists have noted Milei's success in erasing the fiscal deficit in a year, taming inflation from over 200% in 2023 to below 20% projected for 2025, and spurring 7.7% GDP growth by early 2025, the fastest since 2022. IMF support and international credit lines have reinforced confidence. Despite controversies over his far-right political stances, including denouncements of socialism, climate change skepticism, and critiques of wokeism, Milei's approval ratings outpace predecessors. His policies have revived sectors such as retail, manufacturing, and finance, with consumer spending up nearly 3% quarter-over-quarter. Milei himself said, "We are delivering the best government in Argentinian history," a claim backed by first fiscal surpluses in 14 years and an expanding private sector driving employment. However, not all are convinced. Critics warn austerity risks hurting vulnerable populations and social stability. Milei's ideological opponents call for more balanced policies. Time will reveal if Milei is the madman or visionary who finally extricates Argentina from a century of economic decline. What's clear is that his bold reforms have already altered Argentina's economic trajectory, offering a new chapter of hope for the country long mired in crisis. That's it from my side on this topic. If you found this video interesting or insightful, please give it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss an update about the forces shaping our world. Also, do let me know about your views by commenting below. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and see you in the next one.